So hi guys, in this video we will going to discuss about that system architecture and system design, microservice architecture, especially for e-governance application. So we just visited that one of that. This is something we can call as Thane City e-governance site, right? We have just visited here corporations, right? So this is a homepage where you can see a different what we can call as use cases, online services, right? So this is one of that smart city project. In this smart city project, you will basically see there is a lot of online services government has started providing here, not only for Thane city, maybe Mumbai city and all kind of a tier 2 cities and tier 1 cities. So new water connections, ownership, if you wanted to property tax payment, right? If you wanted to go with the NOC, right? Holding permissions, right? Birthday. This is a very common birth and death certificates which you need it, right? For any particular person, drainage connection if you need it, right? So these are some kind of online services you have it, correct? If you wanted to go for other details, so you can display in all these details as well, right? Schools, ambulance, so quotations, right? Here there are some more kind of a services like a vendor management, right? In the vendor management there is a lot of vendors are working, right? There will be a payrolls in that, what we can say, this payrolls will be also part of this particular site where you can have all these people who are working under this Thane city, correct? Where there are a permanent employees, where you will have some kind of what we can say uh, ad hoc or maybe contractor employees as well. There is a lot of vendors who provide services, something we can call as for cleaning, who provide for different operators, right? There are some general workers. And so there is these kind of a people who are nothing but onto a contract side, right? Then there are some different vendors who provide a different vehicles, other services like this. So vendor management is also one of the part, payroll, HR, that is also a part of this site here, correct? So this is something, if you will log in as a citizen login, this is a portal administrator and department. So there is a three type of something we can call as the users, right? So citizen login, portal administrator login, and department employee login. So this is an department employee where you will have different departments, and so there will be a department as well as what we can say different roles for a particular users, correct? And there will be some entitlement for the particular role. Based on that you will get authorization which particular user will access which particular page, correct? So that you will that entitlement and links will be shown to that user based on that role, correct? So some, if you will go into AWS, you will see identity and access management, right? This the same kind of a facility you need to manage. If you have a, you can say, access, and this is the role attached to your username, then in that scenario these are the links and things will be shown to you, correct? So like this particular facility we have also many such times developed into monolithic applications also earlier, where we store all these different roles and we entitle like this. So there will be a super user who create the users. I'm talking about internal users, not the citizen. So internal users, I'm talking about first that monolithic applications. In that scenario, when super user is creating a users, and he will assign some role, based on that he will get some login ID and password, reset password, that mail, so that that person, the user, can log in it. And based on the role he will be able to see the links and what the task he can perform. Citizen login is basically if you or me or some people can come and just click on the citizen login here, you can create your user ID and password. So the idea is how you will manage this data, correct? So this data somewhere you need to maintain, where you can maintain this data, which any particular the system which we can provide all these user data, correct? So this user data, so there is a two thing. One is a login service, another is a user service. So if you are creating your user, maybe in Gmail, maybe in any other site, so you can also update and edit your profile, So maybe your user ID, phone number, all these details. There will be a login service through which login service you can use a different services. Another thing is that we see as a user it's a one particular system, but there can be a multiple other lot of other systems are also there which can run on different subdomains as well. Correct. So the client is also always asking once this user is logged in that you should not ask multiple times for login. It's very irritating and it's not genuine solution. Correct. So then you need to think about that. Do you want it to go with the JWT or do you want it to go with the OR2? Because in JWT, when you go with the JWT, right, majorly you deal with this data and the information tokens, right, in the form of cookies. So when you have a different domains, as of now, maybe there can be some other domains as well which we are using with or you are integrating with that. So in that scenario, how you will maintain the sessions and all this, correct? So OR2 will be a little bit better choice. Another thing is in this, so there is a two things, user service, login service, right? Now third thing is when we are talking about storing this data, right, maybe all these requests and these details, right, because we need that database storage. For this database storage, so which is the right choice? Do you want it to go with this RDBMS or do you want it to go with the NoSQL database? So NoSQL database is much better here because we are not maintaining uh, transaction or this kind of a data. You can also maintain and use that non-structured data also. People are also uploading maybe complaints or maybe some kind of a videos or maybe some other data also if you can use it. So NoSQL database can be much better choice, right? But still you can go a little bit deep when we are talking about a little detailed discussion with the clients as well, correct? So that is what we can say. And when we are go with the OR2, in case of OR2, what will happen here, right? You will have a identity provider, right? And there will be a resource owner. So identity provider will help it to you to authenticate, right? Or help it to you to identify that this is the right user here. Correct. So once you log in and store the data, where you will store the data so that you can use this SSO's OR2 concept for this login here. Correct. So that is we need to identify. There is a lot of tools or lot of you can say systems which provide that to maintain this user data. Correct. So that is one choice. How you wanted to choose for this what we can say the login and that initial login how you will implement it. Now there is, so we will discuss some of the use case for water supply connections, pandal, maybe birth date, and this property takes payment like this. So some of the use cases we'll see. Okay. So let's go and see here, right? So there are system architecture and use cases. So first thing is, right, login service. Number two, user service, right? Number three, property takes payment, right? If you wanted to edit your name, right? So what we can say, name changed and property update, right? So where sometimes you will see there is a different name of your property in your system, correct? It is not at updated from that builder to your name. So that is also you can say birth certificate, correct? And death certificate, correct? Then what else is uh, building permission, correct? Then you can say water connection, right? Okay. Now, like this, you can have some more services as well, correct? So property takes payment, name and property updates, but right? Then payroll, correct? Or what we can say There is a vendor management or vendor service. So if internal users, so there will be a two types of users. One is internal users, portal users also we have it, and there is a client here, correct? So this user service can be also applicable for everyone, right? So that internal user can also update an external user. This login service will be also where you can specify, are you a client or you are something who can internal users. Property takes payment, who will do it? So in that scenario, you can directly pay without any login. Also, you can do the property tax payment, correct? Name and property updates. So once you log in and then you can do it. Birth certificate is basically you can log in and you can request death certificate, birth certificate, permissions. So you can create a profile as a builder, and then there is a lot of other permissions you can request it, correct? So fire NOC and maybe, and there is a pandal permission, correct? So you need to identify there are what are the different domain objects. So there is a 12 factor design, right? Where you need to understand that you need to use that 12 factor design concept for microservices related to communication, security, fault tolerance, and everything is getting covered into 12 factor. Correct. Apart from that, you also need to understand that there is a domain driven design. Correct. So for the same use cases, you need to domain driven design concept, correct? So for each and every login service, user service, property tags, in that scenario, you can have a different domain objects. For vendor is one domain, pandal, water, right? Building permissions. So for that, you can have a different domain objects. Correct. So for each and every use case, you can have a one particular domain object and you can create, it will be little simpler and much more better and easy. Correct. So for that, each and every domain object, what are the fields? So based on the business use case, you can try and you can basically create and you can identify, correct, the fields. And then you can basically create a different APIs. What will be the input data and what will be the output data? Correct. So domain driven design, based on that, you can use it. But before that, we will also learn about three-tier architecture as well. Okay. So in this three-tier architecture, what will happen here? Something we can talk about. Let's have, again, I will say it's a UI layer, correct? In this UI layer, you can use what we can call as, there will be a React, you can use Angular, you can use Android, right? Android app for mobile app, right? Then you can use something we can call as, with this React and Angular, you can also use along with different other frameworks like Material UI or something like that. It's just an example. You guys can check it. What are the other frameworks you wanted to use it? You can also try and you can complete it. If it is only a Android application, then otherwise you need to also develop the iOS app also, correct? API layer, right? Where you can say web layer, right? Then in API layer and web layer, then you can come as something we can call as here, delete. It will be nothing but is your database. So we discuss so that we can go with the database. Okay. So this way we guys, and we will start our journey. Okay. Now you can use a different what we can call as development methodology. You can use a TDD, you can use a BDD, or maybe whatever ways you wanted to go with, right? So that is also you need to take care. Implementation methodology will be, we will use that agile, right? So with the help of Agile, rather than to all other SDLC like waterfall and others, so you can use the Agile methodology, correct? So for technologies, what are the technologies for UI technologies, right? You can, it's just a suggestion, but you guys can also try with React, Angular, right? Right. Then you will have a API layer where you will use that REST API. And this REST API, you can use something we can call as Spring Boot. You can use Quarkus. You can use Micronauts, right? Or maybe you can use some other also, whatever you are feeling comfortable. Okay. So different other language, or maybe you can say the technologies you can use to develop the microservices. Okay. Apart from API layer, what else we are going to use it? Database. So in database, what are the, we are using it? So we will use, let's say, MongoDB, right? If you have some other choice, so you can use Amazon, right? DocumentDB also, right? DynamoDB, you can use it. You can also use MongoDB, something we can call as Cloud, right? If you wanted to go ahead with the Azure or GCP or some other NoSQL database, you can use it, right? If you are going with RDBMS, so you can also choose with different RDBMS like Oracle and others, correct? Now, if you wanted to go ahead with what is the based, this is a database server actually. It's not a database. You will say database server. So now you need to also understand what are, is this one database per service, all right? Or you wanted to go with one database for all services. So you can, as of now, you can try and go ahead with the one database for all service, right? Till the time you very, really, very specific need, you can leave it, something you can do it. Okay. Then we will use a CI/CD. For CI/CD pipeline, what we do, we will use Jenkins, right? You can also try with Circle CI, right? You can use AWS code pipeline. You can use GitHub Action. You can use GitLab. You can use Argo CD. You can use Travis CI. You can use Azure pipeline, GCP pipeline, whatever Azure pipeline, or maybe GCP pipeline, or there are a lot of other tools if you wanted to use it. Correct. Then we will see for monitoring. In monitoring, you can use the Grafana, right? For every microservice, if you want to implement it, so we need to monitor. So for Grafana and Prometheus, you can use it. Maybe please ignore if there is any spelling mistake, right? Then there are other tools like ELK also you can use it, right? Then there is a lot of other tools also you can use it like New Relic, right? And there are a lot of other tools, correct? If you are using an AWS, you can also have that something we can call as CloudWatch, Cloud Alarm, right? And we can implement it. Monitoring, so there is a lot of tools, correct? Then you will have a log aggregations and monitoring will go hand in hand, right? So in that scenario also you can use data log, you can use something we can call as ELK, you can use New Relic, right? Like this. And there are a lot of other tools you can use with monitoring, and log aggregation can go hand in hand, something like this. You can also use older way for Zipkin, right? And there is a one more tool I just is there. Uh, I just forget the name. So you can check for that, right? Which is the base tool. You can try and you can use it for all log aggregation purpose as well. Okay. Then you can use a Swagger, right? It is for API documentation, or if you can use a RAML also, right? API documentation and testing. Okay. So as of now, we are not talking about anything, you can say monolithic, completely it's a microservice architecture only. Okay. Now this way you can have a technology stack. Now you can also go ahead with, now there will be a cloud. So you can use which cloud? Let's say if you are going with the AWS, if you are going with some other cloud, you can take it up some other cloud. Correct. If you are going with the broker, right, for your Saga implementation or maybe other, so you can use a Kafka, right? Or maybe RabbitMQ, correct? Then, or maybe you can use a AWS broker also, where you can create a queues as well, right? So depends on requirement, you can try and you can use it, correct? Then there is a new slide. Here you can see other tools, correct? So as we know, right? So there is a API gateway, correct? We have a load balancer, right? Correct. These things also you need to understand it, how you can go with the, so do you wanted to go with which API gateway? So it's a Resonance 4J, right? Which is you have developed and you can use it. Or you wanted to go with the AWS gateway, or do you wanted to go with some other gateway, or that is also right. IBM also provided, Mule provided. There is a lot of other gateways, or maybe you wanted to go with API-G. So as of now, you can use, let's say, for there's a simple implementation. You can start with the Resonance 4J. This come under your modernization of your microservices. Which API gateway you will use it as per your industry demand. So F5 load balancer you can have, right? You can have something we can call as Nginx, right? It is load balancer. You can use a AWS load balancer, right? So you can check for a load balancers, right? So these load balancers you can try and you can use it. Deployment tools. So deployment tools, we will use it, something we can call as for Docker. It's very much for containerization, right? You will use for orchestration, you will use a Kubernetes. Okay, so we'll create a cluster and then node, and you can deploy the Kubernetes using the Kubernetes. Okay, and later you can go much more advancement, hem you can use it. Okay, for servers where you can say code, you can use a Git for your storing the code, and then Confluence, right? So you can use for documentations and other purposes. You can use it, right? So you can check for the spells. So this is basically, these are the technology stack. Let's say if you will go ahead with this, correct? So this is, we are talking about, means you need to do a little bit comparison and find out which is the best. So this comparison based on the industry requirement, based on the scenario, how soon you want it, time, also what we can say the time to market, what we can call is, but also you need to look for the cost. So long-term basis, the cost and the support and the stability factor is also very much important here. Correct? Like this. In this microservices, here I have just given that this is a Java based. You can also use Node.js, or maybe there are some other APIs also to develop this API layer. Okay, like this. Now let's go into a New slide here. So microservices. In the microservices, what is happening here? Something we can say gateway. अच्छा, इसमें there is a one more thing you need to look for it, service discovery. Correct. So how you wanted to go with service discovery. Correct. So service discovery, how you wanted to implement it. So better way you can go ahead with the, if you are going with the Kubernetes provide itself is the service discovery. From the gateway, what will happen here, right? So we will talk about particularly different other services here, right? So let's say user service, what we can call as water service, where you will have all CRUD operations for water connections, update, delete like this, right? Where you can have a property tax service, correct? So all these details you can use it. Then you can have it something we can call as building permission service, right? You can basically need to identify the domain objects. This is also a critical task. So idea is as if somebody had to you basically to convert this particularly monolithic applications, which we have seen for Thane city. And if you are creating a microservice architecture, how you will do it? So how you will migrate from monolithic to microservices, that is the R&D and brainstorming you need to do it. Correct? Pandal, uh, permission service, correct? And like this, there will be a lot of other services which we have seen it into this use case diagram, correct? So based on the domain object, you can use it. Based on the reusability, you can try. And there are a lot of other things. This property text service will also integrate with your gateway. So there will be a payment gateway integration service also here, because how you will connect and receive the payment. So there will be a one more service which you need to consume. So something we can call as payment gateway service. Okay. These services will also have that load balancing, correct? And these services, once you will have a load balancing, and this will also have a something we can call. So payment service also you need to store this data into database also and to connect to this service as well. Correct. So here you will have a database. Okay. Like this. Correct. Because every time you initiate a payment, you also store this data in your system also, and you will send to a payment gateway service also. So they like this, and each and every service you can create a replicas also. If you are using a Kubernetes, you will have a lot of other replicas as well, right? So you can specify how many replicas you need it. If you are specifying which load balancer you wanted to use it, these things also you can try and you can do it. Okay. This gateway also you will have there will be a UI. So this gateway service will be basically can be connected from the what we can say, you will connect from that any other React app or UI app or something like that. Clear? So here is also you need to have a service discovery. In Kubernetes itself provide a service discovery concept. So you don't need to bother about go with any other external, what we can say the service here. If you are going with pure Spring Boot app, then you can also use a service discovery, what we can say with the Netflix Eureka, right? So earlier days people used to do it, but nowadays nobody is basically doing it. So what are the different other service discovery concepts and these things you will use it? That is also you need to look for it. Okay. Now one particular system, you will have a multiple kind of a different kind of a designs and different tools you can configure and you can use it. Okay. Kafka and these things, maybe you can look for it where in which scenarios you will use Saga implementation and the Kafka, right? So that is a based on the use case you can configure and you can integrate it. So that is I'm not adding up here. Monitoring tools, I don't add it here. That is also you can check and look for it. Okay, how you will use it, right? Another thing is that you also need to understand that how, and so as I'm telling you that load balancers, you need to use it. Service discovery by default, Kubernetes is provided, right? So these two things, how you are going to implement it, right? So this way, this gateway will be connected to something we can call as UI, right? And in this UI layer, then also there is a something we can call as deployment strategies. Do you wanted to go with Achal? One more thing is, as of now, we don't see any such requirement or maybe feel serverless concept here. So cloud native applications, serverless with like GCP App Engine or maybe AWS Lambda. So that is also a choice you have it, but based on the which use case you can go and you can to go with the particularly cloud native applications, right? So where you can use a serverless concept, right, for a microservices deployment, correct? For reporting purpose, how many for that again last time also we have discussed. So definitely there will be a lot of reports you need to generate. So this there can be a reports for internal users and there can be a reports for external users. So report service also you need it, right? So this report service in the same scenario you can integrate and you can use a different AI systems as well for much more advanced tool, something which we can call as so advanced tool for if you wanted to go sir how much users are getting added here, right? Users data predictions, right? If you wanted to building permissions, how much you are getting, how much you can expect in another 2 to 4 years, right? Or maybe different date and the birth certifications, you can predict how many people are getting born every year and you can predict that what we can say the total amount of people or something like the count, right? Voter is actually it's a separate portal, but definitely this kind of a data you can provide into different other system for different other purpose. Death rate and the purpose and all these things based on that you can also understand that what is the major problem when we are talking about when you people are getting or you are getting for issuing the death certificate. So is this because of some kind of corona or it is a very natural death or something like that? So lot of AI also you can integrate for different purposes here, right? So that is based on the scenarios or you can try and you can use it, correct? So in UI, definitely that will be a different, you can say system architecture and concept, you need to understand it, correct? So when we are talking about system architect or you can say architecture, how you design the different components, that is the core heart of that UI layer. Let's go with the UI layer. So in UI layer, what will happen here? So components, correct? Either if you'll go with uh, React, or if you'll go with what we can call as Angular, both the ways you need to understand the concept components, right? Then REST API integrations, correct? Then what we can say, suppose you need to check it out. Then your HTTPS implementations certificate, right, for security purpose. So these things, right? And then your CSS framework, correct? Which framework you are going to use it, correct? Or there are other like a material UI and these kind of frameworks also you can try, right? So there is a lot of other frameworks are also there, correct? So mobile app design, or if you are talking about the app design for especially for adjustable design, correct? And you also need to see how you can improve the performance for UI layer. So server side rendering, and there are a lot of advanced concept is there into UI layer for implementation purpose, correct? So that is you can look for based on the technology which you wanted to use it, correct? So this way you can use it in the CI/CD. How the CI/CD will work here? Pipeline. In the CI/CD pipeline, what will happen here? Right. So last time, as we discussed in the same way, right? We will take it almost the same. Here, you can use Git. From the Git, what will happen here? So these are called as an stages in your pipeline. So you can have a multi-branch pipeline, or you will have what we can call as uh, code review, correct? So here you can take like this. Test cases execution, correct? Build, is this a Gradle or Maven? Or if you have some other tools or other technologies you can use, right? Creating an image, then you can use something we can call as pushing an image here. So this image you will push it to any other registry service, right? So where you can create repositories to store Docker Hub, ACR, GCR, ACR like this, right? Then you can create Kubernetes deployment. Okay. Like this, you can check for if there are some other stages or requirement, but this is I'm taking up little bit general. Okay. So the main challenge is you need to understand when you are creating and migrating from any microservices from your monolithic to a microservice architecture, correct? So reusability, domain objects, right? And what are the other integration points? So there are a different fact of a consideration when you are creating a microservices. We already discussed some more points In which condition microservices are much better? Definitely, it's an enterprise application and it will be growing because there is a lot of other users getting onboarded here, right? So in that scenario, monolithic application will not be a right choice. If you can go with microservices, it will be a little better, correct? So like this, you can use it. And apart from that, a lot of other features you can try and you can use it from the AWS or any other cloud as well, right? So this way you guys can use it. CQRS and other details I haven't added here. So security, how you will use it. Actually, you need to look for NFRs implementations, right? So here we can call as NFR, right? So performance, right? Uh, Testing, automation testing like this. Then maybe monitoring, correct? And security. And there is a lot of other features which is come under, but these are some of the common features you need to look for it for NFRs. Okay. In CI/CD we have talked about, but about before that, if you wanted to go with infrastructure creation, also you can use a different kind of a cloud formations, Terraform, and a template-based concept for like this. And there are a lot many other tools are there for as part of the DevOps, right? For different other purposes. So that is also you can explore and you can look for it. So I hope you got some points here, right? So the main idea is this domain object identification and use cases. For that, you can also connect with the particularly BAs can help it to you, right? So that you can understand exactly the business logic. Based on that, you can create a domain objects, and based on that, you can creating a microservices. Technical points where you need some kind of integrations with some other systems and APIs. For that, that is a technical decisions you need to look for it, correct? So and integrating with service to service fault tolerance, based on the use case, you can try and you can use it, right? Which type of fault tolerance and you wanted to use it, correct? And how you wanted to take care. So service to service communication, so that is we have not yet covered here. So based on the use case, you can integrate and you can try resonance 4J. Still you can use it for that, correct? And you can go with the fallback path and like this. So I hope you got some point and you got some idea. You can provide me exactly the comment how you will implement, right? One particular what we can call as service complete flow, correct? So which load balancer you will use it? What is the advantage if you are going with the load balancer? Which API gateway you will use it and how you will implement it, right? So two things, if you can give some details when you are watching this video or and trying to understand this architectural concept. So definitely you can provide the comments. And if you have any other questions, so definitely you can let us know.